So lately, I've had a few patients and some friends tell me about something called the meat diet or the carnivore diet. And at first, I was pretty taken aback by the idea that someone would eat only meat, and I mean only meat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So, So these people had chronic autoimmune conditions, chronic inflammation, and they tried paleo, they tried keto, they tried AIP, they've tried a lot of things. So in utter desperation, they tried the meat diet, the carnivore diet. And there's a scientist down in Australia who is a proponent of it. And these patients did it, these friends did it, and they started feeling better. Their brain fog disappeared, their inflammation went away. And so they're like, yay, the meat diet, yay, the carnivore diet. So a lot of people are saying, well, Dr. Golden, what do you think about that? And here are my thoughts on it. I think that it's almost, bear with me for those of you who think meat is toxic, that it's almost like a cleanse. They're basically eliminating all carbohydrates from their diet and only going to meat. So only protein. And without the carbohydrates, their gut can kind of relax, and it's not going to feed any bacterial overgrowth they might have or any other kind of gut problem they have. The problem with this plan is it's eventually going to shrink the microbiome. And if you shrink the microbiome, which is all the gut flora that is living in your gut, it's going to make your autoimmune conditions worse because you need a good, healthy microbiome to regulate your immune system. So I think right now that the carnivore diet is a temporary thing. And plus, it's really hard to just eat meat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's just not really sustainable for most people. It's a tough diet as far as like diets go out there. It's a tough one. I mean, imagine not having vegetables, not having any fruit, not having any grains, nothing but meat. So it's tough to sustain over the long haul. Though if you're desperate enough, you're going to do it. So my approach has been to test these patients who've been on the carnivore diet and see why they're so inflamed. So I do the gut tests, I do food allergy tests, I look at intestinal permeability. I'm going to test for SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. I'm going to test the lower intestine, see how the microbiome's doing. And often it's going to be a little skew-whiff on the carnivore diet. So, and it seems like 9 times out of 10, I'm finding SIBO as the cause of a lot of the gut stuff and inflammation. So I think once we treat the SIBO, and if I use the biphasic approach, which is what I like to use as a primary template for my patients with SIBO, oftentimes patients can start tolerating a little bit of the low FODMAPs vegetables, and then maybe a little more and a little more. So it's that seems to be the main approach. But the main thing is the carnivore diet might be a good, okay, I'm so inflamed and I'm so brain fogged, I can't function. It might be okay to do it temporarily, but most people can't do it ongoing for years. And so then, and ideally, we want to find out why they're having the autoimmune and the brain fog and the inflammation and the gut problems. So we want to do some functional medicine testing on that. So bottom line, meat diet might be okay for a little while, and it might even reduce symptoms, but eventually we got to dig deeper and find out what's going on. Okay, so let me know what you think of this. It's kind of a thing that I've heard in the last year. and I'm seeing more and more people come up with it. And those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts too. Thanks.